let's get started with the basics of the transport. Obviously, this is a play button. This is your stop button, and this is your record button. So this is something that's going to be perhaps confusing in the future. So I am going to just say right off the bat, don't worry about this record button just yet. And I will explain as we go along. You also have this side right over here. I know I'm going backwards, but this is where the eye focuses first. So I'm going to go to the second sector, which is very important. And that is the metronome, which you can turn on right here, the little two dots here. And if you press play, you should hear the metronome, right? Or the click. You have a count in. So if you want 1 bar or 2 bars before you start recording, if you're playing live, that's where you do it. Don't have to worry about that yet. I just wanted to show you that there are some drop downs with additional options there. Let's not worry about that yet. I'm going to take small chunks here. The other important section is the tempo here. This is where you will either type in the value for your tempo, or you can slide up and down. And, oh, excuse me. You can slide up and down to affect the tempo. You could also nudge it up and down a little bit here. But let's not concern ourselves with this just yet. So the next focal point that's incredibly important is the Ableton browser, and that's right over here. Now, I just want to make it clear that you can drag something from anywhere. You know, you can just open up your Finder. And this is a Macintosh I'm on, so that's why I'm going to talk Mac talk, but you translate that into Windows. So if I have an audio track, for example, I can just drag it right directly onto, depending on the audio track. Oh, I see this one is not downloaded. It's on in the cloud. So, but yeah, you can do that. However, the browser provides a comprehensive view of your entire collection of Ableton goodies. You have your, I'm going to skip the collections up here first and going to go straight to the categories. So if you're looking to, let's say you're looking for a bass sound, this is where you're going to find the categorized listing of all the of what's available. So let's say, I'm looking for a pad. This is where you're going to find the pads. Funny. And you can obviously select them. And you're going to get a preview of the sound, which is really handy. You can do that with most sounds. So you have everything from synth leads to exotic instruments and everything in between. And this is the sound category. We're going to move on to the drums. And this is where you're going to find what are called drum kits. And we're going to get into that in a little while. Moving on. The instruments section has Ableton Live's built-in instruments. Depending on what version of Ableton you're running, you're going to have a different listing here. So you might see a couple more that are not featured in your version just yet, but that's fine because you do have the basics to create great music. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles just yet. It's It's in the creation, the creative spirit, really, your results. So yeah, so these are the instruments right over here. And instruments are the ones that you're going to play to create synthesizer sounds and sampler and drums. All of these things are instruments, and they are virtual instruments within Ableton. Discuss that a little bit further, but just so we're clear, they're not instruments that live outside like your guitar and whatnot. Those are addressed slightly different, and we'll go over that in the future. So those are your instruments. Next, you have your audio effects, and audio effects are like EQs and compressors and reverbs and whatnot. Here is the most popular EQ, for example, and that's probably the two most popular, actually. So yeah, these are your audio effects. And next are MIDI effects, and we're not going to deal with that just yet. Max for Live, again, a different level, as well as plugins. Your clips are actually, you have to click to preview them, but they're clips, and the clip is actually and I'm really glad that I'm showing you this, because what it is the building block of an Ableton session. This is a clip right over here, and I created one simply by dragging from the clip section. And if you notice, the clip has an instrument, a compressor, two compressors, and a VST plugin, which is a reverb, actually, instantiated as well. So if you click on the play button, let's get rid of the metronome, then you can hear that clip. Now, let's show you clip view. You can double click on that clip, and this will show you what is called clip view. And this is where you're going to edit and you're going to create your clips. All the action goes on in here. And you can switch between clip view and device view, which is what we were seeing a minute ago, right down here. So you've got your device view and you've got your clip view, right? So those are your clips. They're pre-packaged in this sense, but they can be anything that you create. An audio track, let's say your favorite song, let's say you're a DJ, you can drag all of your songs after you warp them for your show onto well, I'll show you where you can drag them onto, but they will appear here in the clips section. Okay. So next we have the samples, and this will show whatever samples exist within the Ableton library. And this is an important thing for me to say, and that is that everything that we're seeing right here exists within the Ableton library. When you actually install Ableton, this library will be created, and it will house everything in it in that folder. Grooves. Grooves are exactly that. This will allow you to change the groove of something with pre-designated grooves. So again, a little advanced, so let's not get into that just yet. The final thing here are the templates. So this is, Ableton comes with a couple of basic templates. And for example, let's open up demo and sketch here. And I'm just, if you notice, I just double clicked on it right here. And I'm not going to save that because I don't have anything meaningful in there. And it's going to open up a new live set. So this here is kind of a canvas for songwriters to write music, and it shows you clips that are created with a drum rack, and what you see here are called scenes. And if you click on these scenes, you've got a slow rock beat, and you'll see that there's a tempo designation here, and it will change the tempo accordingly. Cool. So just showing you the templates. This is something that not only you get a couple with Ableton, but any song that you create or, template that you create, you can drag onto here, or you can save onto here. And you can do that by going to the Save Live as template. And it will appear here, so which is great because it always gives you a starting point. And speaking of which, we are going to get started. Really quickly, the places area here contains all of your Ableton packs. And packs are the ones, a whole bunch come with Ableton. They are products that are sold on the Ableton website. You've got different sounds, you've got different amazing stuff. Just go to the pack section of ableton.com and check those out, because there's a wealth of sonic information there that will be very useful. So they appear right here, and you could also update them directly from here, and you can download them directly from here as well. So good stuff. And the user libraries where you're going to drag all of your things. This is your world right over here. All right. Anything below here, besides the current project is the current project, are folders that I actually dragged onto myself. So I can go from my Finder and literally drag a folder here, and it will appear as part of your browser. So that's your personal Ableton world. So we're going to start a new live set, and we're going to create a drum groove. Now, just one thing I wanted to do, and that is to make sure that my chat is open. I just couldn't see that, but now I can. So if you have any questions, please present them in the chat. All right, so we've checked out the browser, and we know that we have a transport up here that's play, stop, and don't worry about the record button yet, a metronome, and the tempo. So we are ready to get started. That's the overall layout. There are a couple of things here and there, and namely this one important thing, and that is the switching from the session view and arrangement view. Arrangement view is probably what most people are used to seeing, kind of a left to right a timeline view. And you can start recording directly onto there if you prefer to. That's perfectly fine. However, what makes Ableton special is its ability to have it has this amazing workflow that is what I would like to familiarize you with. But anyways, you can switch between them either right over here, or you can use your tab key to switch back and forth, because you're going to be doing that a lot in the future. And yes, you are going to be using arrangement mode regardless when you need to actually arrange your track. When you get to the level where you need to finalize your track, you're going to need to go into the arrangement view. However, a lot happens here composition-wise that cannot happen with, well, it could happen, but this is just a much more interesting environment to work with. So let's get started. You've got 2 MIDI tracks and 2 audio tracks. Audio is anything that you throw onto it that's been pre-recorded. You know, your songs, you know, from iTunes or whatever it's called, music that you drag onto there. Those are or sample library things, then you're going to drag them onto there. And you also are going to use that to record your guitar, your bass, your piano, your live instruments. That's audio. MIDI, on the other hand, is slightly different. It's like I showed you earlier what it looked like as the clip, and we're going to create a MIDI track. So we're going to start with drums. And where can we find our drums? Right here in the drum section in our browser. So just like the other sounds, you can click on them and you can audition them. So that's good, but we also have a search. Oh, my mouse got a little slow for a second there. So we also have a search field right over here. This is what everyone uses. This is the place to be. And why? Because you can just type in what you want. In this case, we are looking for the 808 kit, because of course we are. We're going to click on the core kit, and we can drag that to the MIDI track. We can drag it to the device view, clip view, device view as well. Or we can have just double clicked on that and it'll pop right up. So it's really easy to work with, finding things and adding them to your track. So this here is what is called a drum rack. And a drum rack is a collection of drum samples, actually, as expected. Here's your bass drum. You can play them. If you notice, there's a little orange square that pops up right there, actually, right in that little matrix there. And that's because that is the note that's being played from 128 possible drum racks. And you can scroll up and down. I'm just dragging up, right? But all that we have here is these that are available, and we're going to use these. Yeah, so we're going to create a beat is what we're going to do. And how are we going to do that? Well, there are several ways you can do that. You can click on this little icon right over here, and that icon represents keyboard, and it actually turns your computer keyboard into a controller. So I am playing my computer keyboard right now, and as you can see, you've got the little square that's showing that I am totally off, and I'm pressing the AS key. And just to be clear, your keyboard is the QWERTY and the ASDF section. And the ASDF section are the white keys, and the QWERTY are the black keys. So yeah, so that's how it works. And yeah, so I'm totally off here, and the reason why is because the octave is too high. So you can actually manipulate the octaves with the Z and the X key. And I'm going to lower the octave. Actually, I raised it with the Z key twice. There you go. But I want to go all the way down here. So I'm going to hit the Z once again. And here we are at the root of our drum rack. So cool. So we can actually play our drum groove if we want to, like so. Activate our metronome. Make sure that our count in is on for 1 bar. If you want 2 bars or 4 bars, that's up to you. 1 bar is plenty for me. And this is where recording happens in Ableton. In session view, you simply click on the little circle there and start playing. Right? Pretty cool. Now I'm going to get rid of the metronome. So that sounds a little funky, but a little off as well. So we're going to fix that. And how are we going to fix that? We're going to go to our note view here, or clip view, and we can expand that if we need more room. And you can see the notes that I recorded right here. And you can see that they are off, because if you're not aware, then you should know that your life is now going to revolve around these lines here. And these lines are going to designate the position of each note on the chosen groove. So here's what we can do to fix these. We can manually move them, right? Press play with the space bar. Or we can select all of them and just drag and select them all. And we can right click or control click and find ourselves this drop down, actually it's dropping up menu, and you're going to find a bunch of context sensitive options that are available for you there. Context sensitive means that wherever they're located, wherever you click or control click, they're going to change the menu. It's going to be relevant to the area that where you're at. So in this case, we are going to find something called quantize. Does everybody know what a quantize is? Well, I can't really ask you because this isn't a real classroom. But I don't know if you noticed when I pressed quantize, the notes moved. If you didn't notice, I'm going to undo that so you can see that again. Right? So that moved. So I'm going to right click once again, control click, and you've got quantize and quantize settings. Quantize allows you to quantize to whatever values you set in your quantize settings. So I'm going to open the quantize settings, and as you can see, we are quantizing to 1/16 T triplets, and let's switch that to 1/16. We can adjust the note start or end. You just want to quantize just the end or just the start, you can do that here. And the amount. So if you don't want it to be so rigid and so tight to the lines that I described earlier, then you can lower that value. I want it to be completely tight because my performance was very weak. So I'm going to quantize it fully. So let's listen to what that sounds like now. If you notice, there's a problem here, and it's that particular note. So, we can just move that to where we think it's going to rock. All right, so we fixed that. Perfect. So What we have here is a bass drum and a snare drum pattern. And you'll notice that all of the drum rack samples or pads are represented right here, very easy to see, but we cannot hear them unless we click on the MIDI editor preview button. And now we can click on these and we can play them just like we were doing with the drum rack. So I want to start messing with the closed hi-hats, right? So let's do that. But before we do that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to copy this clip that you created. You can do that by option dragging that clip down. So now that clip will exist on the second slot. Just double click on that or click here for your clip view. And you should be in your clip view, which is where you want to be. And now we are going to use our little pencil up here, which is called draw mode. And we're going to use that to draw in notes for the closed hi-hat. Here we go. Right? Let's hear what that sounds like. I'm going to enter an open hi-hat here, just because that's what we do. Oop. If you got the wrong one, you can click it and delete it. Right? Cool. And we can continue this craziness by, well, we can enter all sorts of notes if we would like, but we're just going to keep it simple for that. Let's copy, once again, our clip by option dragging that down. And we're going to double click it to select it. So we are here. So if we double click here, and we're on that one. If we double click here, then we are on that clip. So this is what we want to do. Next thing, we're going to control click once again, and we are going to focus on the grid. We've got two different grid options. These are very basic. We don't want to deal with that. We want to work with actual note partitions. So we are going to select the 1/16. You notice the grid has changed a little bit. So we can now redraw these notes. And now, just to show you the difference between this clip and that clip, see they have different grids. So here's what this sounds like. And then this one. And we can take that to the next level and do a little trick that everyone uses in their music these days. And you can do that by control clicking once again and going to 1/32 and just adding that little roll that exists in pop music everywhere. Right? And at this point, we can start adding random notes. No, I don't want that. I'm just... You can use your creativity. I'll put one here. Whoop, that's not going to work. So that is, I've shown you two ways of entering notes. You can also, of course, purchase a MIDI controller, a proper MIDI controller, and that can range from a keyboard to one of those fancy pad controllers like the Launch Pad or Ableton Push, of course, which is the Ableton Live's dedicated controller. So it's probably the best to purchase, not because it's Ableton, but because it's Ableton. And we can, once we've set that up, and I can show you that in a second, you can play them with your controller, which gives you a lot more control because you have a more precise sound or attack rather. So let's hear this clip once again. Let's see what we can add to it. Just kind of auditioning the sounds before I do anything. Kind of interesting, right? So let's record that. And how are we going to do that? Once again, we're completely avoiding the arrangement record button. And this is the first time I'm giving you an indication of what that does. Remember, I showed you arrangement view. Arrangement view is on the other side. So that's why we're avoiding this record button. It's because it is for arrangement view. And we are in what? Session view, right? So I am going to instead, first of all, I'm going to turn on the MIDI arrangement overdub button right over here, right? And the session record button. Here we go. Pretty cool, right? So now we've got some funky little toms going on. Just gonna get rid of the little pencil and now we can select things. So what are we gonna do to this to make it fit into the groove? If you were thinking quantize, then we are thinking along the same lines. So let's go to quantize settings, and this we want to lower down the amount because I just want to keep some humanness to the feel. I don't know if humanness is a word, but here we go. Let's make it tighter. And how do we do that? We can, excuse me, a little tea here. We can do that once again by, again, control clicking and going to quantize settings, or since we've already set the quantize value that we want, we can just go right ahead and quantize it. Now I want to move some of these notes around, like this last one here. Actually, let's listen to what it is. Okay, so this leads me to the next thing that I needed to show you guys, and that is if you expand your clip view, and you can do that by hovering over the top ruler and simply dragging down. Just click and then drag down. you want to practice that, you can go to any area and expand that particular area by clicking its position in the ruler. In this case, I want to go to the very back there of the clip. And there it is. So a couple of things. You may have noticed this little section right over here called velocity. And what it is the velocity is the force at which the hit is struck. So in this case, it is very low. So we can turn that up by simply dragging its velocity stalk so we can hear it better, right? Cool. So I wanted to do that and actually copy it twice. Cool. I want to get rid of that one note, and because this is crafting your drum pattern is, you know, something that you're going to focus time on. Or if you're not doing patterns, if you're doing more orchestral music, same. You're going to have to sculpt your composition. So you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go up and down. So I want to place these in a different position. I'm going to move some of these around as we go. I'm going to move this one. Cool. So that's that. So we've got this kind of cool groove, and guess what? We've created 3 different variations. So what happens when we play the different variations? Because we have 3 clips now. Let's hear what it sounds like from the beginning. Play the next one. We have something called quantization menu, and we can select when the next one is going to play. So let's say we wanted to start right away. We can go to 1/16. And 1 bar is probably what a lot of people use, and I know I do, and it will wait until the clip is done playing 1 bar, and it'll move on to the next one. So in this case, I've pressed play, but it's waiting. See how it's flashing? So that's how we create variations in different clips. The clip is the core of Ableton Live's workflow. This is the foundation to every song. And I remember earlier I showed you, I clicked over here and showed you that these are scenes. Then this would make scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. Cool, right? So let's create yet another one. Let's create a different variation altogether. And this is going to get into some more interesting stuff here. We're going to option drag that clip that we created. And what are we going to do here? Okay, a couple of things. First of all, we can select the loop race and click on the duplicate button. And what happens here is it will duplicate the length of the clip. So you can continue to build upon your composition with different variations all together. And you can continue to add them as you go along. But also, there are different ways. These are, I'm going to continue to show you different ways to bring your loop to life, if you will. Now, I showed you the velocity stalks right over here. And here's something that's actually new with Ableton Live 11. So if you have an older version, you're not going to be able to do this. But, you know, it's good to know. You can still do some great music with older versions of Ableton Live. So we're not judging you for that. So I'm selecting all of these notes right over here that I created, all these crazy notes. And I'm going to show you that here you have the velocities that have been selected, or the notes that have been selected. What I'm going to do is drag the velocity range, and you see what happens. Have a look right here. And what that means is that Ableton Live 11's new AI engine, if you will, artificial intelligence, is going to select whether to play the velocity that the note was struck at, or minus 54% of velocity. So it's going to make a decision over whether to play really low or really, you know, where you actually played it. And we're going to do that with the all those congas and whatever I created that with. And we're also going to do that with the hi-hats, and kind of lower that down a little bit. And that should give us a constant, constantly evolving kind of vibe to our groove. So let's hear that. You hear the variations. Cool. So you can do that as well as some other things that I'm going to show you in the future, but I just want to keep things a little bit simple for this particular class. Something else that you can also do is select the loop brace, or select a couple of notes if you want. For example, actually, let's do it with a couple of notes. Let's select these four right over here. And here's a play at double tempo and play at half tempo button. And we can use that to double the tempo on that. So once we've done that, I want to fill that up a little bit more. So I'm going to just Option, drag, and kind of copy those four notes. Right over here, where we have this predictable thing, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to delete actually most of it, and just keep these two right over here. And I'm going to do the opposite, and we're going to play that at half tempo. So you see what happened? It turned it to the half groove that was playing before. So we can continue doing that and double that. So. And that just kind of pulled things back for a second there, right? Another cool thing that you can do is you can reverse everything. Now that doesn't tend to work as well for these kinds of things, but it's good to know that it's there. You can also invert things. When you invert things, and everything that's here is going to be there, and everything that's there is going to be here. So let's try that. You see, that's the kind of thing that yields cool things, cool songs, or they call happy accidents. That sounds cool as hell. That sounds like an introduction to a song, you know? So you can do all these things, these creative touches to your sounds simply by experimenting, you know? So, yeah. I would like to stop now and ask if there are any questions that I can answer. Just going to give a little time. I'm going to sip on some tea and wait for some stuff to come up. Just expecting something to come up on the text. If you don't have any questions, just say, oh, no, everything is cool. Are you following with the computer or just listening and kicking back in your living room? That's the thing about these virtual classes. You can do anything like that. All right. So no questions so far. So good. We've created what is a drum pattern from a drum rack. And that drum rack is right here. And if you notice, I double clicked on the track itself to bring it back to device view. And device view is where we can see the device. And we're going to focus a little bit on the device right now. So, a few things. First of all, we can select a pad. All right. Excuse me for a second, a little distraction there. So we can select a pad, and if you notice, got all these knobs here. These knobs are they're here as well. What are these knobs? Well, they are to create variations in the sound. And I'm going to just click on the simpler clip here. We're going to listen to it. So here we have our kick drum. I'm going to select the bass drum and kind of mess around with that. We've got the tone. Let's see what the tone will give us. Not much. Let's see what drive will do for us. You can hear that for sure. What about the decay? A little less drive. Now let's click on the closed hi-hat. All we have is level here. So that's boring. Our level is fine. Snare, let's check this out. Snappy. Tone. Turn it up a little bit. Cool. Let's do the high cut on that. Right? We can do that at some point of the song. All right. So basically what I'm showing you here in this particular drum kit, now it's different on every one of these. So yeah, so just, you know, expect it to be different. But in this particular kit, which is the 808 core kit, which is available with every version of Live, and it's a very popular one, you can select a pad and the options that come up individually will be seen to the right. Excuse me. But what's to the left here? Just so we know, these are called macros. And macros are basically pre-programmed by you or the user or the programmer. In this case, it's the programmer. So basically, you can make this yourself. But what they are a collection of things that were programmed, such as the level or drive, and you can turn up a delay there or some sort of an effect, the length of the note, all sorts of whatever you want to have controlled, and then multiple ones too. You can control it with a macro. So the ones to the left right over here are the ones that pertain to the entire kit. I know that because the ones to the left are usually the ones that encompass the entire kit. I'll explain that in the future, but let's play the groove and let's see what we can achieve with these macros. I should have warned you, but this is where it's at. Cool, right? What is this, vintage? So that's obviously a little out of control, so let's turn it down. So when we are happy with the combination of parameters the way we like it, and I did like the way that sounded, we want to create a snapshot of that. And guess what these are right over here that look like cameras? They're your snapshots. And how are we going to create these snapshots, which are called macro variations? With the new button, there it is. So we've created a new variation. We can Command E, Command R, geez, I don't even know why I was thinking E, to rename, and I'm just going to call it Sage because it's my last name. And when we press its play button, we are going to change the parameters to the way they were. So let's say I change them completely. If I go back to Sage, they'll go right back to the way they were. So that's a macro variation, or a snapshot as I like to call it. And you might have noticed that there are a couple of macro variations right there created for you. So let's go through some of these. And that's your macro variations. So yeah. Cool. At this point, we are left with one thing to do. And at this point, I would ask someone to raise their hands to tell us, what is that thing that we need to do? It's that one uber important thing, and that is to go up to your file menu and save your song, or your live set as it's called. And you can do that by going to File, Save Live Set, or Command S. Great. So we are going to go to the folder where we want to save this. I'm going to put this in this external hard drive I call T7. or it's called T7 actually. And we have to wait a second for it to come to life, apparently. Good. And we're going to create a new folder here. And we're going to call this one Introduction to Recording. With Ableton Live. It's a big name for a folder, but we're going to call it that. And I'm just going to put this in yet another new folder, and this one's going to be called Week 1. Whew, all that work. So we created 2 subfolders here. And the reason we did that is to keep things as organized as possible. And we're going to click here where it says Untitled, and we are going to call it Drum Rack. Just going to do an underscore here, and we're going to do an abbreviation for Week 1, right? And that is going to be the name of our live set. Cool. So once we've done that, then here's what I want you to do. You're going to think, geez, more work. Well, yeah, be happy about one thing, and that is that when you opened up your Ableton session, it didn't ask you any questions like, do you want to, what do you want to call this session? What do you want to call, what do you want to do? Ableton opens up with a brand new canvas, a blank canvas to work with. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about Ableton the most. However, if we want to save things properly, we're going to not only save, we could save live set as, or save a copy. What the difference is, here's when you want to create a different variation of your set. Here's when you want to just save a copy. If you're, crazy and want to have multiple copies. Actually, that's not a crazy thing to do. That's a logical thing to do because, you just want to have different versions as you go along. And that's a professional thing to do. But that's not what we're dealing with right now. Right here, I would like for you to use the collect all and save. And at this point, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is collect all and save? Trust me, it is uber important to collect all and save. Why? Well, if you decide to open this session in the future and you haven't pressed collect all and save, let's say 2 years from now or 3 years or 4 years or 10 years down the road, if you didn't collect all and save and you moved your things in your hard drive and you've got a new computer and blah, 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 a plethora of reasons, it's going to open up and say, where is this audio track? Where is this? It's missing this, it's missing that. It's horrible, happens all the time. You don't want that to happen unless you want that to happen, then I would suggest to use collect all and save. So when collect all and save happens, it's going to ask you, do you want me to collect files from elsewhere? From other projects, from the user library, from factory packs. Where do you want me to save? Where do you want me to gather this stuff from? In our case, it's from factory packs, because these come with factory packs, the samples that are in here. However, we want to do that because it's a good practice to do this. So we're going to press OK for everything. Just keep it all clicked, checked. Cool. It's going to take a second longer because it's literally taking the samples that are in that hard drive or in this hard drive. Let's say you start to drag samples in from different hard drives. It's going to take them all and it's going to put them into one Ableton Live folder for that session. And you'll be able to open everything up exactly how you want to at any given point in your life. Cool. So that's how we save our song and how we save versions of songs, or live sets rather, which is something that's incredibly valuable, underrated for sure. Now let's show you something else. Remember I showed you the templates. Well, you can save your own template. I did tell you that you can do that. You can save live set as template, and you'll see that it goes into this folder. Now, just so you know, it's going to go into your user library, and I discussed what that was in the earlier today. And what is a user library? It's your library. This is where all your stuff lives. So it's basically asking you to add this template inside the templates folder that lives inside your user library. You'll see that Ableton has already created a templates folder for you. So I'm going to call this one my 808 love. Why? I don't know. I'm going to press return, right? And now when we go to our templates, we have 808 love right here available for us at any time. So that's cool. I've shown you how to create templates, how to save your song, and you can also save live set as default set so that it opens up like this every time. I don't want to get into that yet because it's not really something we need to do just yet. We just want to open up with the default set the way it is. But I do want to show you something else. And that is, if you notice, these are actually live sets. And we know that because they are .als files. And you'll notice that in front of them, there's this little drop down. And what that is, that drop down are those tracks. How do I know that? Well, let's go to 808 Love. See, 808 Core Kit, MIDI, 2, 3 audio, and 4 audio. Exactly like this. So what that means is that this hierarchy shows you the Ableton song or template, or in this case, .als live set, and the tracks within it with this drop down. And you can literally take that one track and drag it onto your session. So if you saw what I just did, I just literally dragged the same track onto here. So now we have 2 of them. I'm not going to press play. I'm not going to press play. Let's press play. Yeah, I knew that was going to be insane sounding, but I had to do it. I try to stop myself. Going to delete that with my delete key. And we are getting near the end of our little session. But I want to create a MIDI track from scratch. And how do we do that? Well, we can go to our Create menu, and you'll see that you have Insert Audio Track, Insert MIDI Track, Insert Return Track. I'm going to create a MIDI track. Now everything is back to normal again. We have our MIDI track there. Return track. What the heck was that? That's this right over here. These 2 tracks, you don't record onto them, anything. You click on that and you get nothing. This just houses an effect that you put in there. In my case, I put in a hybrid reverb. And the second one is a delay. I'm going to press play. And you see this send knob right over here? We're going to send the signal from this into that. Check it out. Let me turn that down a little. Why does that sound so cool? Well, that's because that's going through Ableton Live 11's new hybrid reverb, which is just a dope reverb. Just gonna take away the low frequencies on that. Never mind what I'm doing right now. That's advanced. But I have to do it. And if you understand what I'm doing, good for you. Gonna go back to the clean set. Cool. Now send B, which is B, has a delay. Let's hear what that sounds like. You gotta love that. So that, my friends, is what is called a send effect, because we send our signal to. What's cool is that you can send different tracks to it. So let's say I have another track right over here. It's another drum. To my second MIDI track. If you notice, it doesn't give you that groove that was playing in the preview. This just doesn't come with it, which is unfortunate because some of these are really hot. Cool. So what do we have here? Let's check it out with our controller. So this is our second drum rack. I'm just going to go to the little mix button right over here. I'm going to lower that down. And I'm going to create a clip, right? Just press the record button right here. Can quantize that with the quantize button right here. Since this track is selected, we can go to our sends. I'm just going to send that. Going to add some other elements. Going to add that little cool effect simply by selecting that key and adding it to the sequencer up here. You'll notice that it keeps changing. That's because they are different parts of the clip. Here you're visualizing the clip in an entirely different realm. I'm going to add this. Quantize that. We can duplicate this, and just like I copied those clips, that's happening virtually inside of Ableton Live right now. I'm going to use the note repeat right over here. Overdub that. Change the timing values. So, besides just showing off, I wanted to just give you an indication of the power of Ableton Push in relation to what we've learned today. And what I just did with all this fancy stuff, created these clips. Same way that we created clips manually with these. We created them by entering notes inside the sequencer of Ableton Push. We created two clips to be sure. Here we've got number 1. Number 2. We also send to the reverb while I was in there. And I'm just going to close that because that's something for the future. So that allowed us to create 2 different drum racks that are playing together pretty harmoniously, really. It sounds great. However, we are not stuck, and this is the grand finale here, we are not stuck with this particular drum kit. I'm going to show you guys something that is extremely valuable, and I'm going to do that first by actually copying our drum, or this drum track, and I'm going to do that by pressing Command D, and that duplicates the track that's selected. I could have done that by control clicking and pressing duplicate, but I used Command D instead. I'm going to mute this track, and you can do that by deactivating it by clicking right over here. I'm going to deactivate all of these. I want to focus on one in particular just to show you this. So I'm going to press play. That's our 808 kit. And double click it to go into our device view. And here's what I'm going to do. We're going to enter what is called hot swap mode. And you'll notice that there are hot swap round buttons in different places. Excuse me. At this moment, we want to hit this swap button right here. And I know it looks like a little recycle button. And when we do that, it activates the browser. It actually went back to our search because it assumes that I want different 808 kits. And we might want to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my arrow key. See, we're auditioning them. And then I'm going to use my return key, and I'm going to actually change the entire kit. We're still in hot swap mode because you can see that this X is activated here, and this connects to the browser. So I'm just going to keep changing our kit by double clicking on it. Love that. Now remember that other kit that we created with our push. What happens if we did the same with that? Let's use our hot swap button. In this case, we did not call this with a search, so it's going to show us all of the kits. And we're just going to randomly select different ones. Double click them and change it up. And Ableton Live is filled with these kits with these funky sounding sounds, you know. You want to see something cool? If you press the X right over here, you open up the crossfader, and this little crossfader will allow you to crossfade between both of these tracks. This is a DJ functionality, really. But let's make this an A and make this one the B. So what's going to happen now is it's going to play an interpolation between A and B. So you ready for that? I'm going to go all the way left to A. Then all the way right. Combination. Now they're together again.